Week 2, where all things are paid off. Mr. Jim, you take the ball, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So we're going to introduce a concept today called attention grabber, and it's really the focus of why somebody would want to talk to us and try to appeal to those personas you've identified to want to reach out, want to have a conversation with you. The attention grabber is the name that comes from the J. Barrows sales process that we'll be borrowing heavily from in terms of this particular session and next week's session. And it's really, as I said, the centerpiece of how you structure any kind of a touch, whether it be an email, a voicemail, actually even a connection, a phone connection when you have a conversation. You're going to be looking at the attention grabber as to establish really what is the draw, why would this person really want to have an engagement with us. We'll talk about two things today. One is how do you structure an email and how you might structure a LinkedIn email for reaching out to establish a reason to communicate. So at the end of this session, we're going to be able to develop what an attention grabber looks like. It's got components to it. I'm going to use a tool directly from J. Barrows that will help you construct the attention grabber. I'm going to walk you through the components of it here, and you'll understand how to do it, but I'm also going to introduce you to a tool that will help you put it together. The second thing we're going to do at the end of this session is that you'll be able to kind of create your own message for both LinkedIn and or an email touch. The other kinds of touches we'll add to the plate here over the next session on how do you build out your complete cadence, or how do you build out your complete series for a touch campaign, so to speak. The third takeaway here is going to be how to start your outbound touch, your first outbound touch with your targeted contacts, and that will be sort of the Chris, I think we're ready for the next one here. This will be sort of the starting of your cadence, which we'll finish off next week. Now, the other piece of this, and we'll have a little piece at the end of this with Teresa talking about Salesforce, but we're going to insist or encourage you to make sure you log every touch, every contact that you have with your target contacts in Salesforce. This will help us track the success or the lack of success in what contacts, what touches are working for you, which ones are not, and give us the opportunity to fine-tune those as we go through our cadence. Okay, Chris? So when we talk about building the attention grabber, we start with the persona. And I assume that you guys, Bill, what personas have you targeted or identified as far as your 10 accounts or your contacts that you're going to be reaching out to with this cadence?
Those were, I thought, kind of set for us that we wanted to do the owner, the office manager, and the operations COO or director of operations.
So owner, office manager, and sort of COO kind of person.
Or COO. Director of operations, yeah. or chief operations officer. Those are the ones we talked about last week.
Jerome, what kind of personas? Yeah, okay. And Jerome, which ones did you settle on? What kind of personas did you identify?
So it's owner, CEO, president, director or manager of operations. Especially since I'm targeting healthcare, I can see practice administrators as well.
Okay. All right, good. So the next step in building your attention grabber, since you've done the personas, we're going to talk about what are the things they think about day to day. What are the things they worry about? A director of operations may be thinking about how does he manage day-to-day activities of his group, whereas the owner may be thinking about how do I manage the long-term security of my business so I can grow in this kind of weird environment we have today. The second part, the next part, we've got the persona and then the issues that they are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and then the next thing is what do we have as far as a business solution, not a product, but a business solution that would address each one of those issues. The fourth component would be what is the result, what is the outcome of applying that solution, the CMIT solution, to that particular issue. What will that persona see as a result or the outcome? So those are the three, or actually the four components of the attention grabber. We're going to learn how to build it out. I'm going to use a tool here in just a minute to show you how to work that, and we're going to go through an exercise using your information that you've already captured and gathered to build out an example or two of your message and your attention grabber. So the next step, if we look at the next slide here, Chris, this puts it all together in kind of the formula form. This is the formula we're going to be using here in a minute to kind of build out some examples for you. You take the persona, in the case of either the owner or the president, CEO, director of operations. You look at the trigger or challenge, priority or need that they worry about the most, maintaining a remote workforce, for example, optimizing their IT budget, being flexible as they grow and have multiple locations coming up in their future. Whatever those things that they're thinking about are an issue, we add to that what is it that CMIT can offer as a business solution to address that particular priority, need, or concern. And then the final part of it would be what is the result or outcome of applying that solution to that issue. That becomes the attention grabber. I've got an example here. I'm just going to ask you a couple questions, Jerome or Bill. Where is the persona? What is the persona here? You identify it for me.
The business owner.
Yeah.
Business owner.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty straightforward, pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
In this particular example, what is the trigger or challenge or priority that we've identified this business owner thinks about?
Remote security, remote employee security.
Security of having employees work remotely.
Yep.
Now, the third component, the third element would be what is it that we have that can address that particular concern or issue?
The 15-layer security solution to protect networks.
All right, exactly. And what is the result or outcome of using that security solution from CMIT?
To protect our networks from attacks and data breach.
Exactly. So that does that represent to you a meaningful result or outcome of using what we have to solve an issue that they think about a lot?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Everybody comfortable with that? How it's structured? We're going to go through an exercise here in a minute to actually put it together using a couple of your examples. So I just want to make sure there's no questions at this point as to what it consists of and some idea of what it might look like if you put it into application in our world. Good? We good to go? All right. Any other questions about what we've talked about so far? Are we good at this point in terms of what an attention grabber looks like and what it means?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Any comments or any thoughts about how that feels to you? Does it feel comfortable?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this is exactly because
so this will become.
Go ahead.
Say that again, Bill. I'm sorry, I walked over you.
No, it's just we kind of went through the process, and as I was trying to, part of the assignment was to write an email that was, and it was a real struggle trying to, I began and I was starting to get there, but it wasn't great, and so this is it's a good start to formatting that. So.
Good. So and that's a good point, because this will become the backbone of most of the messages that you'll send out, regardless of the mode or form of the message, whether it's in-mail, whether it's an email, whether it's a direct mail, whether it's a phone conversation, whatever. This is going to be the backbone of why this person will want to talk to us, talk to you in particular. Any other question? Jerome, do you have anything or any comment about what we've talked about so far?
It seems pretty straightforward.
Great. Okay. Well, let's move on, Chris. The next slide. So let's talk about two things. I'm going to address what does an email look like, and what does a LinkedIn in-mail touch look like. Those are just two of the many touches that you could utilize, the modes of touch, I should say, that you could utilize in your cadence, in your outreach, and your call sequence to contact sequence to a potential prospect. We're going to talk about just two of them today. I'll introduce some more next week. But they're still going to have sort of in that, you see that third point down here, they're all going to have sort of as a backbone that attention grabber. The typical structure of an email as well as an in-mail would be starting off with who you are. Hey, thanks for taking my call, or my name is Bill. The reason for the email or for the message might be something that I'm calling, but the reason for my call is to check in and see what you're doing about security in your IT operations. Then your attention grabber comes in. Business owners who are concerned about security, etc. And then a call to action. I'd like to have a phone conversation with you. Can we get together next week for 15 minutes just to explore what you're doing about security? And then you have your close, which is basically your name and your contact information. So I'm going to give you an example here just to show you what it might look like, and we're going to build one for each of you here in just a moment. So here's an example. Something personal is always an enhancer when you're doing a targeted campaign or targeted cadence with what we call your top 10 prospects. What is it about them that you can note through your research, something you can say about them or their company that shows that you are more directed? This is not some generic message coming from a 10,000-piece email campaign. It's about them. In this particular case, I used the example I noticed in last week's Business Journal that you recently announced Acme's commitment to maintain full employment during this rough period. And I know that presents a variety of challenges for you. That's the intro in this particular case. The second piece of it is going to be, why am I calling? What's the reason I'm sending you this email? Pure and simple, the reason for my email is to see how you and your team are adjusting to these challenges. And now comes the attention grabber. There's the third component of your message. Owners like you who are not sure of the IT demands and budgets often turn to CMIT Solutions, as our business model allows the flexibility to easily adjust our IT service level to you as your daily demands change. This is really in reflection, and you may have heard stories within the system that some clients have come to us and asked us, hey, I've had to lay off some employees. Can we cut back the level of service? I don't need 20 desktops. I need 15. Or they may have said, I'm moving my team remote, and I need to be able to be flexible in how I do that. So their service level changes, and the ability for us to adapt very quickly to their needs is an opportunity to save costs and to be able to maintain productivity by being able to quickly adjust the service level we provide as their needs change. And certainly this day and age of COVID-19 has been a great factor in businesses having to be pretty flexible in terms of their adaptability. And then the call to action would be whatever it is. Would you be open for a 15-minute call? Perhaps at a minimum, I can give you some feedback to your current setup and serve as a backup if things change. So that's a call to action. This would be a complete email example. It's a template. You may have a different way to phrase it. You have different personas that are going to be at play. They're going to have different needs. but the structure is going to be very much along the lines that you see here. How does that look to you, Bill or Jerome? Does that feel like the kind of messaging that you're looking for, Bill? I know you were talking about how to create a message earlier. How do you talk to people? Does this help?
Yeah, no, it's a great structure. Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
Yeah, same
Jerome,
here.
how about you?
Yeah, it's again, it's simple and straightforward. So not a lot of fluff. That I've seen a lot of emails where just, okay, get to the point here. But I like it.
Get to the point, straightforward. One of the tenets of the attention grabber is to be quick and to the point. Always have, as an intro, always have, here's the reason for my call, and a call to action after your attention grabber, so that you have a four-component message here. You can see the four components, I think, pretty readily here. Any other question about what the email touch would look like as an example here?
And notice the personal touch, so to speak. And I also noticed in just trying to go through the accounts and determine which ones, just the amount of research that we do is just almost overwhelming. But I understand that. So I guess the question really is it required? Do we get into that level of, reading the business journal or, kind of a thing, or where, that first paragraph?
Yeah, one of the reasons why we look at 30 or 40 touches or contacts, it could be 2 contacts in 20 companies or 1 contact in 30 companies, 40 companies, whatever the personas you're looking for. Obviously, that is a function of, do you have the information on that particular persona for that opportunity or that prospect. The idea of keeping it to 30 or 40 is to incorporate the fact that we do want to do some research to personalize it wherever we can to the company and or to the individual. This won't scale. You're not going to do this when you're mailing out 400 and 500 what I call generic marketing. Let marketing do that. We're not doing the blanket sort of coverage that we would normally expect from marketing. We're going after specific opportunities that, for whatever selection reasons you have, represent, this is a prime target that I'd like to have as part of my client portfolio.
Okay.
You can filter it through, obviously, whatever you know about the company from a local standpoint. You may know the individual. You may have somebody who does know the individual. You may have seen a write-up in the paper. I just gave one to one of our local franchisees here about an architect. He had targeted architects as an industry, and about a month ago in the Austin Business Journal, there was a large section on how this particular architect firm in Austin was growing. And they had hired a new general manager. They hired a couple of senior executives, and they had a write-up, an article in there, and I gave it to Yusuf. He managed to run through it and find someone in his B&I group that knew one of these people, did a little research, got a connection, and reached out to them with a little personal information and got a meeting with them. So when you have that personal touch to it, that adds to the probability or to the propensity for someone to take your invitation for a call to action. Yes, it does require research and it takes time to do that, but that's why we're keeping it to that 30 or 40 size.
Hey,
Does that make sense to you?
Sure. Yeah, I understand.
hey, and just so you guys, I mean, we all have our own personalities, and this is what I talked about with discovery. Jim does the journals. He's pretty good at researching it. I'll scan LinkedIn, and then I'll scan a Facebook page, and I'll Google them real quick. And my personality is more like, hey, I saw you have 3 kids, or hey, you like Oklahoma. You're gonna have to find what works for that contact. I mean, I don't attract people that Jim does, right? By nature, it's just, he's a little more professional in his writing, that kind of thing. I kind of you can test those. Don't get set up on one way works better. I just find being genuine to who I am, it works best. Jim's genuinely this way in writing. I'm generally the jokester, and I put people off and others, but that's people I want to do business with, So So yes and no. I agree with Jim. It's situational. But if you've got 40 you got to get to, and you're trying to crank those out while you're trying to respond to other people, I'd rather you get some type of context or shorten the list is the other thing. Instead of going after all 30, be like, hey, with what I got going on, I can only do 5. Don't do them half, because you'll get a low week. In that low week, you'll be able to come back and hit these guys. So just wanted to give you my 2 cents. I told you I was going to be quiet, and I'm not.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. One of the things you can do with LinkedIn is go through your contacts, or through, if you've got a prospect you're targeting, and you go and you see there's a connection to LinkedIn, and you go look at their LinkedIn page, you find out I would be triggered by someone who graduated the year I did, which I won't tell you, from UT with my MBA, and I see somebody else in my same class. Hey, I noticed that you were in my graduating class. Great to would love to get to know you a little bit better. What are you doing these days with your degree and with your business, or whatever, something like that. Very personalized. It can be a lot of different levels of personalization. Something about their job, something about their business, something about them that you can associate with at a different level. For example, their university or college affiliation. So you'll see an example of that here in the next one I do about the LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn can tell you a lot of things about them other than what they're doing from a business perspective. But this is just one way you can gather information, is just read business articles or set up alerts, Google alerts, Owl alerts. You got TalkWalker, a lot of different ways you can set up alerts that will trigger something about looking for keywords, looking for ways that you might associate yourself or identify an opportunity. There's tons of ways to do it, and we'll be able to coach you through the variety of ways to research or to look into specific opportunities for you to put on your hot list or your target list. Okay, Chris, let's go to the next example here, next slide. So the LinkedIn touch really differs only in the mode. You still have your introduction, you still have your attention grabber, you still have your call to action, but you may find out more personal stuff about them in LinkedIn, and you'll also use maybe the opportunity to invite them to join your network as sort of a sub call to action, something to get their attention, help them get connected with you. We did find in our pilot group that the people that we reached out to through LinkedIn were more likely to respond to that first or to that particular touch. So this might be a quicker way or a more effective way to get someone to respond. The example on the next slide, Chris, kind of gives it a more personal look, a personal feel, in that someone, this is hypothetical, but I could say something, hey, Jack, I noticed in your LinkedIn profile that you were recently recognized for your community service work with our local SCORE Center. As a former SCORE consultant, I want to thank you for the work you're doing in helping new businesses get started in our community, or whatever you want to say. That's a more personal way to look at things. This would come from just looking at various connection points you have in LinkedIn, or if you got a particular account and you find out they have a LinkedIn entry, even if you're not connected, you'll find perhaps something more about their group affiliations, what they do, what their history's been, etc. So this is just one way to get like I said, like Rob says, get a more personal touch in play here. Still, we have the reason. The reason for my LinkedIn mail is to see how you and your team are dealing with this heightened level of today's cyber threats. Then we go into the attention grabber. Many small business owners, there's the persona, who are very concerned about the security of their data. There's the need. Leverage CMIT cybersecurity tools. There's the solution. To provide a more secure work environment and more knowledgeable workforce, there's the result. So there's your attention grabber phrased out a little differently than the previous one. The call to action is, if you share this concern, I'd like to have a brief call with you to see if we can be of help. And then sort of a sub note here, in any event, I want to invite you to join my LinkedIn network if they haven't already done so. So that is just a way, again, to structure a real short, not obtrusive, not pushy kind of a message built around the backbone of an attention grabber to get a response, to elicit a response from your target contact.
Hey, Jim.
Just feel comfortable to? Yes, sir, Jerome. Go ahead.
So for this LinkedIn, if they haven't connected yet, will this message fit? Because I know there's a limit in terms of how much text you can put
Well,
in there.
Yeah, you've got a limit in terms of the InMail. You could use InMail if you happen to have a contact information, or if you can find it through other sources, you might be able to get an email for them as well. So if it's a LinkedIn example here, you'd want to use the InMail or reach out to them within. I know you got several levels of LinkedIn that provide different, I think, different limits as far as InMail is concerned, and you just have to, work this in within those constraints.
Okay.
Okay, Chris? All right, so that gives you two examples, an email and a LinkedIn invite type of contact. Any questions about the structure, how you research them, how you phrase them? I know everyone's got your own style, so your style will reflect in how you write and construct the email or the LinkedIn. Don't necessarily use my words. Certainly don't use my name, but you can certainly construct one that's going to fit your personality, your style, or the situation as you see fit. No further questions?
Nope.
Okay, so let's do a little exercise. I want you to kind of, as we go through this list here, is write down a persona. Think of a contact and write down their persona. We're going to ask you to describe what you think might be an issue that persona has to deal with in their day-to-day business, something they think about a lot or have to worry about. Then we're going to think about what CMIT solution, business solution, can be deployed in order to address that need or issue. And then we'll build the fourth component, what's going to happen when we do that. So everybody got one in mind? Because I'm going to walk into an exercise here, and we're going to build a couple of them along the list of contacts or personas that you've already created, and see what it might look like. Bill, you got one in mind? Is an example you can use? Build it out from there. Jerome, what kind of persona would you? All right. Okay, good. So let me introduce a little tool right here. Chris, I think this is a spot where I can bring up my screen.
I'll go ahead and stop the share, and I'll go ahead and let you take over, sir.
Okay. All right. Let me bring up a spreadsheet. I'm gonna quickly get an example here. So this tab is the fourth tab, I believe. And I don't want you to worry about the previous tabs or other tabs. We're just going to use a couple or three of these to help you build out your attention grabber. We start with the persona or personas. So you might have business owner, operations director, office manager. Maybe as your three personas. You can have more than one issue or challenge for each persona. And the idea is to start first with who it is that you're going to be targeting and what they may worry about the most. And if there's three things they worry about, then write them down, 1, 2, 3 in this section here. The next tab captures for that persona whose main priority is, and there's where we insert, it automatically inserts your priority or challenge. Then you enter in the yellow here. The yellow is always data entry point. So you enter two more pieces here. One is, what is the component of your solution that aligns with that need, and what's going to happen when it's deployed? What is that business owner in this particular case going to see as a result of applying our 15-layer security stack, whatever you want to call it? So that composes the one persona, the second component, the priority, third component, what do we have, fourth component, available alert notification systems you can use. Google's free. Google Alerts is free, so I'd suggest you start with that. The rest of them usually have a fee attached with them. And what you're looking for here is something that would trigger you to want to talk to these people. For example, you might want to look for companies that are acquiring another company. They're merging. How they're going to merge, so the questions come out immediately, well, how are they going to merge and how they're going to combine their IT operations? That might be an account or an opportunity of interest to you, but you're using a trigger, a search trigger, to kind of keep the eyes and ears open, your eyes and ears open to what's going on in the industry as a whole that might represent an opportunity for you. Then when you get into that particular company that's making a move or making an acquisition, you begin to search into what industry they're in, what is their persona, and what that person might be thinking about given the fact that they're, for example, going to open a new office and they have to worry about how do they expand seamlessly their IT operation. So that might be an opportunity to see an opportunity. So the trigger is sort of the company or industry focus. The persona is the individual that you'd want to reach out to within that company to make an appeal or set up your attention grabber to see if you couldn't acquire a meeting or get a conversation going with them. We're going to worry just about the personas right now and how do you structure that. So any question about how this all ties together? So you see the results of our exercise today, and you have a tool that you...
Let's see. So are we, I mean, you got the word business over there. I guess how specific are we wanting to be? I mean, is it, like owner or
your managing partner? You may have several different ways to find out a description would be a persona.
one, but that doesn't seem like you'd want to,
a director of operations is going to have many different titles, different ways.
Well, yeah, chief operations officer is one that popped up, through, keeping systems and programs up to date.
Standpoint, remote access.
There's definitely that.
Let me finish this out with Bill, and we're going to come back and we'll go through.
I know there's one of the products or services is the mobile device protection service. I know Continuum has.
No, we're not going to mention Continuum because that's a product, but I'm going to say something. We got mobile device management.
Yep.
All right, so that'd be a descriptor that's kind of this is what we do, this is what the solution is what we have services that deal directly with mobile device management. And what would the result be? What is the... Okay, so that would be a company Data Secure.
Right.
There's some superfluous stuff stuck in there, which I'll take out here in just a second. But that's an example of how you might build out what your attention grabber is, and that again becomes that backbone of your email or of your LinkedIn mail, whatever you're using to make that touch.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to do a couple more examples with you guys, but right now Chris is waiting.
I just don't know the answer to this question, and I haven't really delved into it. That's by design. So, Jerome, you took a good swing at it, and I appreciate that too. It's like, okay, I dabbled, I cheated, I might be giving some time back depending on the questioning and some of the other stuff we have for you.